So what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people making when it comes to adding in or starting out bodyweight training?
A lack of knowledge is probably the biggest piece. It's not knowing how to modify exercise intensity so that you're working in the threshold that you want, being able to do those 5 reps. So you need to be knowing regressions and progressions, using bands, changing body posture, and still doing the main compound exercises that actually work in the vertical and horizontal planes.
Yeah. Is there a certain volume threshold of sets or total sessions that you might try to hit or avoid going too far over? Because again, that's been my mistake a few years ago where I thought, I'm just doing handstand work. It's just 20 minutes of holds every day. How hard could it be to throw it in on top? And then my wrists and elbows and shoulders realized, oh, it's very hard to just add this in.
There's a lot of load going through these little structures.
Yeah. Do you have any strategies for introducing that, tapering up, or just fitting it into a cohesive plan?
Yeah, less is more. Being mindful of what you're doing to start with, because there's so many exercises you can do. As you said, handstands, front levers, planches, muscle ups, human flags, all your basic compound exercises. Where does it all fit?
Yeah.
Just picking a few primary movements, starting with a almost less than you think amount of sets. It's such a good place to start because you can always trend upwards, but starting with 60 sets a week, where do you go from that? So just when in doubt, doing around that 20 set volume is such a good guideline to start with. But then knowing the difference between a calisthenics skill and an exercise you're doing for muscle building. So like a handstand, it's not really strength focused. Yeah. When you compare that to doing dips, the amount of practice you could do on handstands, you can do that 6 days a week if you want. Whereas if you're training your dips really hard, you're not going to be able to do that as often. So such a good measure to know if you're doing too much is if you go into the next workout and you can't repeat what you did or progress, or you have absolutely no energy or muscle force in those movements, you probably need more recovery.
Right. But there would be some times where that's a good point to go to overreach a little bit.
For sure.
Maybe like 1/3 of the time.
For something to progress towards, but more often than not, people are overzealous and they start that within the first 2 weeks and they can't keep progressing.
Yeah, that's my mistake and my mentality of I know a lot of traditional S&C bodybuilding, just push hard, stimulate, destroy yourself, or just push hard in general. But I guess the skill work like handstand or planche or front lever, you're not necessarily going to failure because you need to have really good technique and coordination over the skill.
That's for sure. And when we look more into biasing like strength adaptation, it's smart to do it more often at that threshold of intensity to see adaptation. Because if you did your first set, go to failure, you can't do an extra 2 more sets to get that sweet spot of enough work in the movement pattern to do that again multiple times per week. Yeah. So with strength, it's more playing the long game, having a little bit of restraint, and progressively increasing that intensity.
Gotcha.
Don't worry, I've spent 17 years figuring out what actually works so that you don't have to. Click the link down below to get my hybrid program. I'll show you exactly what to do and coach you through the whole thing.